What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys have enjoyed me being back, and because I'll tell you what, I've actually really enjoyed being back and making these videos, so I'm looking forward to keeping the train rolling. And first thing I need you to do is hit that like button, hit subscribe, and share this with your friends, guys. It really helps if you share this and just help get the word out there, get us that exposure. I'm out here in my shop and it is freaking cold. It's about 10 degrees or something outside, maybe not even 10. It's like maybe 7 degrees, but it is super cold. Hence why I'm doing this video in here, because it snowed and everything is covered up. Not a lot of farm work going on. I can show y'all probably in the later video some of my livestock stuff I got to take care of. But I got an interesting one for y'all today. I know other farmers have talked about this, but I kind of was spurred into doing this episode because I got into an argument online. Imagine that. And all morning today, I've been dealing with this goober head. And this guy commented, and in the gist of things, he commented on an older video of mine, and he was basically saying that farmers survive off of subsidies. And this is so often said, and it drives me crazy. It drives me absolutely insane. I felt compelled to make a video and say, are farmers living off the government? And that's what this video today is about. Now, a lot of this is just, I'm going to speak from my own personal experience. I'll share what few little statistics I have, but honestly, I'm just sharing my reality. I'm a farmer, and I'm here in West Tennessee. I'm 32 years old. I work under 2,000 acres. I'm going to share my experience. That's what I on this channel, I share the realities that I'm seeing. I'm not going and looking at articles. I'm telling you what I straight up experience. And so that's what I'm going to do today. And you know, really, I probably should take a page out of Joe Rogan's book. He doesn't even I like to read my comments because I want to respond to you guys. Like, most of the time, the comments are from people that are like, man, I enjoy the videos. You know, I'd like for you to talk about this or that. So I'm going to check my comments, but like Joe Rogan doesn't even check his comments. I don't want to get to that point, but I need to get to the point where, you know, if I see somebody kind of being a turd, that I either just block them or ignore it. And I tend to, if somebody is habitually popping up in the comments, giving me a hard time, I usually just block them from the channel. Just get them out of there, because ain't nobody got time for that. So, all right, guys, in the name of time, let's jump right in. So the first area where we are all getting subsidies in the farm, and where we get the majority of our subsidies in the farm, is crop insurance. I don't know how all this began, but the government got involved in the insurance aspect. And if you are in a USDA or FSA, which is Farm Service Agency, if you're in one of their programs, they require you to have crop insurance. And it is 62% that the government subsidizes, because I did look up that stat, and it's exactly 62% the government subsidizes of crop insurance. And so that means, like, I pay for crop insurance. I have crop insurance on all of my acres. And if I paid $6,000 a year for crop insurance, then the government's paying the other 62% of that, is what that means. I mean, I'm not a math whiz in my head, but let's say, what would that be? Like, say my crop insurance total was $14,000 or $15,000. I'm only paying $6,000 of that. The government's paying the remainder. Would be kind of how that would work. But that's where the biggest amount of subsidies is in crop insurance. And look, you know what? Like, I'm leery sometimes of certain insurances. I have had to use crop insurance before, and it does help you sleep a little better at night having crop insurance. So I'm not a hater on crop insurance. And crop insurance is different in the form of, like, you know, regular insurance. It's like, if I have a car wreck or something and I make a claim, half the time they don't want to cover it, and then they also want to raise your rates afterwards. It's not like that in the crop insurance world. you make a claim, it doesn't harm you later on. I mean, you wouldn't want to continually make claims because I think it would jack up your yield average. But as far as your costs and things like that, it's not going to hurt you. So crop insurance is a more reliable form of insurance. But that is where the majority of insurance money, or the majority of government funding for farmers, goes, is in that 62% realm of crop insurance. Now, the guy I was arguing with today was basically saying that if a guy is using chemicals, fertilizer, obviously seed, but the big three inputs, seed, chemical, fertilizer, then he is farming off of subsidies because you can't make it otherwise. Now, look, I don't disagree that things are very expensive, and last year was very challenging. You know, like I know a lot of guys that, like I've said multiple times on here, I feel like I keep repeating this, but last year was very tough financially for myself and a lot of other farmers. And so, yeah, I don't disagree that the cost of these things make it hard, but it's not impossible. If you're lean and you're proficient enough, you will make it, even with those costs. You don't have to have subsidization from the government in order to survive. All of these people that typically blast farmers for the subsidies, they're thinking about 15 to 20 years ago and further, when cotton especially was receiving huge payments. In my area, the cotton guys could get $250,000. And as I've spoken about on this channel before, they would set up multiple entities because they had a cap of $250,000 per operation. So they would set up multiple tax entities and they would just max each one of them out. So some of your big cotton guys, they're only supposed to be receiving $250,000. They might be getting $1.25 million. And so I'd heard stories about some of the cotton people that their subsidies would pay all their cash rent. And so then all they had to cover was their inputs after that. And that makes it very difficult for like a corn and soybean guy to compete. But I will say this, those days are gone. The days of these huge subsidy checks that go straight to the farmer like that, they are no more. There's two programs. There's ARC and PLC, price loss, something like, don't ask me what they mean because I don't hardly know. But these two are typically what pays. And every year when we sign up our farms with our crop insurance and do all this stuff, sign them up at FSA, you have to select if you're entering it in ARC or PLC. These are subsidy programs. And basically what it's saying, if the yield and they calculate yield and they calculate the current price, and they have to be at certain levels. If they get low enough, then it'll trigger a payment through either ARC or PLC. That's how this works. Now, I have received payments from ARC and PLC years past. This year, I did not receive a single payment. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to lay all this out there. This year, I got the crop insurance subsidy, which I don't receive that. My crop insurance gets that from the government, and then I pay the remaining balance. So that's not cash in my pocket. But I got that. And then the second was I'm in the EQIP program for cover crops. And basically, they help pay for cover crops. Like it's a government program that's trying to encourage farmers to start implementing more cover crops. You can sign up your acres, and they'll give you a certain amount per acre, and it's to help pay for, because when you put down cover crop, you got to pay. For myself, I have mine flown on. I have to pay for the aerial application, which is a cost per acre, and then I have to pay for the seed. I got to buy the seed that they spread. So this is to encourage growers to go into the cover crop world, and it's a price per acre. You are not making a bunch of money on this. You know, it typically, for most guys, I think it probably covers the cost, and you might make $5,000 or $10,000 total afterwards. It is not lining your pockets. I'm wanting to really reiterate that, guys, because there are a lot of people that truly believe that government subsidies and programs are just fattening us up. that I'm going to go out and buy a brand new Denali Duramax and the government gave me enough money to do so and I'm still going to have money left over. That's not the case. When I have received that, it's typically not very much money. It'll be, man, I would almost venture to say the most ARC or PLC funds I've ever gotten might have been around $20,000 a year. That might sound like a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money when you're spending $750,000, $800,000 to put your crops in, pay for all your stuff. $20,000 is nothing. And it's not meant to make you rich. It's meant to try to kind of pull your head above water so you can stay alive. The most money I ever received, I went back and I was kind of thinking about this, MFP payment. It's the most money I ever received from the government. This is when Trump was in office. We were having the trade war with China, and our prices were way down. For reference, right now beans are like $12.30 a bushel. They were around $8 at that time. So that's really bad. And Trump did an MFP payment. And I want to say I got like $65,000. That was a lot of money for my operation. Did not pay all the bills, but it did help pull my head above water. And it helps it kind of helps you flow into the next year, really more than anything. But again, $65,000 was not making me rich. It's going into paying off all those bills. But here's the deal. If you're set up right, then that can just give you a good cushion for the next year. You should not be farming in a way that you have to receive government subsidies in order to continue farming. If you are in that position, you're going to go broke. Because like I said, this year did not receive a government subsidy. There was a disaster relief fund for last year because we had a drought. And I think from that, I'm supposed to receive around $6,000. So this year, with, I guess if you wanted to say subsidies alone, I don't even know, I guess you could say the disaster relief, somebody might consider that a subsidy. That was to offset the drought of last year. I'm getting about $6,000, $7,000. And I mean, this one guy that I was arguing with, he was adamant that farmers are farming off of these government subsidies. And he even told me, because I told him, I said, man, maybe you're living off the government's tit, but I am not farming off of these subsidies. You know, hey, I'll tell you straight up, a nice subsidy check would have made my life a lot easier for this past season. It never came. And it didn't happen. So, you know, hey, it'd be nice. It would be nice if I was in the position where, oh yeah, they're going to send you a $250,000 check. I mean, look, I pay taxes. He also went into this tax rant about how we're cheating the tax system essentially. And I can tell you that I have paid probably more in taxes than some people will ever pay in their lifetime already. Thank God for those tax write-offs. Taxes would obliterate me. The tax write-offs thing that they talk about, if we did not have those, we would pay so much in taxes, it would be ungodly. I mean, just absolutely ungodly how much we'd pay in taxes every year. And typically, you still end up having to pay taxes a lot of times. So, yeah, the tax thing kind of tripped me out. But again, as far as the subsidies go, the biggest income farmers are receiving is on crop insurance. And again, it's not going in our pockets. It's going to the insurance companies. We're paying the remaining balance. We're still having to pay that money. There's programs you can enroll in where you get certain funding. Again, the cover crop program, the EQIP, I'm pretty sure it's nationwide. You can get in that program. But again, it's really not free money because you got to buy the seed and you got to apply the seed, whether that's aerially or you know, having it planted or whatever. So it's not just free money that you're receiving. And you got the ARC and PLC programs. Those are nationwide, but they're not guaranteed every year. And it's not a lot of money typically when they are triggered. And like these disaster relief things, again, it's not a ton of money. The biggest takeaway that I'd like to give to people is that the days of huge crop subsidies that everybody thinks about and everybody hears about, they are not anymore. They're gone. We're just not in that place anymore. And myself personally, I'm not a big fan of these subsidies. When you have these big operations, like back in the cotton era, where they were getting the subsidies, they were manipulating them. They were getting huge government checks. Again, it was paying all their cash rent. That's a huge burden taken off of there. So then their chance to have a great return per acre is like drastically increased. Well, your corn and soybean guys and wheat guys, they weren't getting these checks like that. And so it's like, wow, the tables were really shifted one direction. And ultimately, when you do have big subsidies, it seems like they more or less prop up the really huge operations, and they really don't help the small operations very much. And that's what I've seen in my experience when there were big payments. Like the MFP payment is another prime example. It had a $125,000 max. Well, what do the big guys do? They have 9 different tax entities. So they just cap out $125,000 across 9 different entities. That's a lot of money. And it just makes subsidies ultimately make the big guys impossible to fail. Almost. There's always a risk of failing, but it really severely props them up. When you look at these subsidy things going out, typically, because he threw some numbers at me like $23 billion in subsidies. One, I don't know how much of that is crop insurance. And then 2, does that also include produce farmers? Does that include cattle farmers? Does that, like, what all does that include? That's probably not just corn, soybeans, and wheat and cotton. That's probably not just those. That's including the grand scheme, most likely. And I might look and I may be wrong on that, but I can tell you from my personal experience, my operation, and even looking at my dad's, we did not get subsidies this year. Again, we got the disaster relief for the drought from last year and the crop insurance subsidies, and that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, I argued with this dude. He even told me, he bet me $100 that that I was living off of the government tit. And so I told him, if he ever finds his way to Munford, be sure to bring that $100 so he can pay up. But guys, that is the gist of this video. I just wanted to put that out there, lay it all out on the table. I'm not getting a government subsidy this year. I didn't get a government subsidy last year. I made a crop insurance claim on my corn and got, like, I don't know, not a lot of money, but I did get a little bit of money. And I can't tell you, aside from the MFP year with Trump, when I even got a sizable check from the government. And that was due to the price drop with China. So guys, we are not farming off the government. If you know a guy, and I'll even say this, if a guy is living off of his crop insurance, if we want to take it that route and be like, well, this dude's just farming and getting this insurance payment, he will go broke, because crop insurance standard is about 70% of coverage. Meaning if you should make 100 grand off of this, then they'll cover 70% of that 100 grand. Crop insurance is to keep you from going broke, not to make you make a profit. I didn't throw a lot of statistics and numbers in here because I'm trying to give you just real life. This is what I see. This is the reality of it. I'm not lying to you. This guy was like, stop fooling everybody. I ain't fooling anybody. Being 100% transparent and real here. And, you know, I even told him, I said, hey, kudos to you for knowing how to manipulate the system and living off the government tit, because maybe he is getting huge subsidies. Maybe there's a way I could manipulate the system and get these, but I don't. So, all right, guys, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and we'll catch you later this week. Thanks.